All right. Hello, everyone. Let's get started. I'm Dr. Hockman, the medical matchmaker. I help doctors find practices that really closely align with their value systems. And, um, and I really feel very passionate about us taking back medicine and making medicine a great thing again, making it just as rewarding as it used to be. So I have the Dr. Houston with us today. I'm so excited because Dr. Houston is an expert on blockchain. I don't understand it. I'm like an old granny when it comes to technology. So, my hope today is so that we can get a little bit of an understanding of how we use blockchain and how HPEC, which is a platform that Dr. Houston has created, will help us as physicians and help us take back medicine. So, thank you for so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't we just start? For those of us that totally don't get technology, start with how we use blockchain. So, blockchain is this new thing. We don't need to really understand how it works. It's like, I don't know how the carburetor in my car works, but I know that my car gets me from point A to point B. So, how do we use blockchain, practically speaking?
So we use databases all day, every day. Like now that everything is digital, databases are on the back end of everything that we're doing. When we make a credit card transaction with our, MasterCard, we start getting documentation of that, that transaction and all the other transactions. And MasterCard keeps a ledger of everything that we've done. Same thing with our banks. Our social media keeps track of our conversations. And so all of this is kept in the background through databases. And so blockchain is a new kind of database that makes things, they're distributed, meaning they're not owned or controlled by one entity, and they are publicly available, and they are immutable. And so those are the things that make it different than traditional databases.
So, one of the things about the internet, oh, and before we even go on, if you're watching live, type hashtag live. If you're watching a replay, type hashtag replay. So, one of the things about the internet is, the internet came out when it came out, and 30 years ago, we probably used it like we use blockchain today, where some people used it, some don't. Um, so, that's kind of where I see our understanding is. But, since the internet came out, there have been some safety issues with like viruses and all these other things. How does blockchain deal with that?
So I don't necessarily want to say viruses, but it helps viruses. But so, for example, when all of your data is in one place, centralized, it's all with MasterCard, it's all with Facebook, it's all on LinkedIn, then all it takes is one really, really strong hacker to get in and get everybody's information. We've heard about, these Experian credit hack, not Experian, but these credit hacks. We've heard about hospital systems that have patient data that's been hacked. And so whenever data is centralized, you as an individual who have your data there, you're at risk for having your information hacked. Now, the thing that's interesting about blockchain is although it's distributed, you need private keys to be able to access this information. And when each individual person's information is secured by their own individual keys, then rather than a hacker needing to get through one door in order to get everybody's information, they need to hack into everybody's door. And when you're the one who's in control of your keys and you're the one that's in control of your password, really the only risk for them to get access to it is if they do some kind of social engineering where they try to convince you to give your password away or something like that, which does happen. But if you never give your password away, if you keep it private, then your information, your data stays private and secure as well.
What if you lose your password?
Well, I don't know if anybody's seen some of these stories about, people who have lost hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin because they lost their passwords. So, there's great risks associated with those kinds of things. And there are some people that are trying to build solutions to try to, make it a little bit more user friendly. But that's one of the things you got to be careful of nowadays.
Yeah. So maybe write it down, put it in your safe or something. I don't know. If
Yeah,
you have a
sure.
secure safe.
For
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
Yeah.
So you created HPEC. Tell us about HPEC and how it uses blockchain for us as physicians?
So HPEC stands for Humanitarian Physicians Empowerment Community, because that's what we do. We empower the humanitarian physicians to do what they do best, to care for patients, to prevent death and permanent disability. And the way we're doing that is by giving physicians ownership over their professional brand in a digital space. And I know that sounds kind of abstract, but when you think about it, all of our interactions are digital, including the interaction we're having now digitally over the internet. And so our ability to access information about our patients, our ability to authenticate that we're licensed, that we are able to log into systems and order that $17,000 medication or book the operating room to do that, femur surgery. These are all digital interactions that are governed by, access control and identity systems that are controlled to our professional credentials as doctors. Now, right now, just like the rest of the world, all of these entities and all of these systems are centralized, meaning owned and controlled by the individual entities. So it could be a large vertically integrated health system. It could be, a place that you work. It could be like a private equity-backed hospital system or a place of employment. It could be the insurance company or an EMR company. All of these things, these entities that we as doctors interact with, require us to authenticate who we are. And so HPEC is a decentralized identity and credential wallet for doctors to be able to authenticate themselves instantaneously, privately, and securely in decentralized ecosystems. And so we can prove that we are who we say we are in moments, instead of this 4 to 6 month credentialing process that happens when we interact with centralized systems.
So that would be when we are starting a new job and, we have to get credentialed with the insurance companies. Is that right?
That is part of it. But what people don't realize is it's not only when we start a new job, it's also when we contract with insurance companies. And then it also has to happen every 2 years. And so most of us, if we are employed, that kind of happens automatically. They kind of maybe send us a form to fill out. We don't even realize it happens. But they're actually going to be shortening that time from 2 years to much more frequently. And the reason is, there's many reasons, but one of the main reasons is the no surprise billing rules. So when we think about it, patients are no longer going to be allowed to be sent surprise bills. Medical bankruptcy is the number one cause of personal bankruptcy. And so what people don't realize is these surprise billing laws are centered around whether or not we as doctors are credentialed to charge for those services. If we perform a service that we are no longer credentialed with that particular person's insurance company, we can't be paid for that service. And we now won't be able to bill them either. So it'll be a tremendous amount of theft of services on the physician's part if we don't start building these new automated identity and authentication systems that streamline this process and kind of fix all these friction-filled issues.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking this through. So for a physician-owned private practice that's a small practice, they don't have the massive amount of admin and office staff to be able to keep doing this. So that would really streamline the process. But it sounds like the credentials would belong to each individual physician.
Correct.
And then they would need to click a button or do something very simple. So what would they need to do each year to re-credential?
So they would just need to click the credential and hit send.
Oh, that's so easy.
So I just want to clarify though. So we all have to update our medical licenses, update our DEAs, do CMEs. None of those things that we have to do are going to go away, but we are going to make them more automated and more streamlined so that rather than having to try to keep a list of all the CMEs you did and putting it in a folder and then making sure to send it to this license board or this license board, we keep them all in a digital format in our wallet so that we can just send. And rather than these other, if you Google medical credential wallet, there's a couple of solutions out there but they're centralized, owned by somebody else, where they control your information. With HPEC, it's a decentralized identity wallet where you own and control your information, where you kind of keep your own basically private server of your own identifying information. So the end goal is, yes, instantaneously sharing of your credentials and proof of who you are.
So that would also decrease the time for, just say you do start a new job, it would really decrease the time to get credentialed with insurance companies, correct?
It'll reduce it to moments. That's the goal.
That's amazing. And so how long does it take? So just say I went and I signed up for HPEC. How long does it take me to get onto the platform so that I can just momentarily get credentialed with insurances?
Okay, so first I want to say that we're creating a paradigm shift. We're creating a new future, a new way that things are going to be done. So today, when you log on to HPEC, it's not going to happen today that you'll be able to be credentialed instantaneously. What we do provide is a wallet that you can upload, store, and keep your own personal paper credentials in PDF format or take a picture of them, where you can share them with any entity in order to credential in the old traditional way. Now, what we're working towards is creating these digital credentials that will be accepted by these entities. But it's going to have to, we have to kind of create a cultural shift. So some of us might remember when we couldn't take a picture of our check to deposit it. We had to go physically to the bank. And there was no way for us to know if the check was ever cashed unless they actually mailed us a version of that check. And so that actually wasn't that long ago. It was, 15, 20 years ago that was the most common way that people, put in checks. Now we have immediate transfer of money. We have Zelle, we have Venmo, we have all that stuff. But before that, we also had an ability, to take a picture of our check. But the first bank that did that and the first customers that used that technology, they were way in the beginning. And there were many that didn't trust it. But slowly, as more people adopted it and more people used it and realized how much money it saves, how much time it saves, then it became, the gold standard for how people do things. And now most banks don't even send you your check anymore. And so we are kind of at the very beginning phase where we are the first company to have this new technology that can create these digital credentials. So it is going to take some time for people to adopt it, but I believe that we as practicing physicians have a very rare opportunity to pick up this tool and then put pressure on the system to use it. We are the value creators in healthcare. The patients are the ones that need us. Without us, they die or suffer from permanent disability. And so, this is an opportunity for us to regain control over our right to practice and move. And so it's not going to happen immediately, but if we work together, it can happen soon.
So what can we each do to help move this along?
So you can join the movement. HPEC is, the Humanitarian Physicians Empowerment Community. It's a community of doctors. When you onboard, we verify your identity to make sure that everybody is a physician. Everybody has a license to practice in the US or has had a license. That we do have retired physicians who have retired their license who are still allowed on. And then when you get in there, it's not only a credential wallet, it's not only your identity where you can receive these digitally verifiable credentials as we start building out this ecosystem and creating those partnerships. But when you enter, you're automatically entered into a group with other licensed physicians in your state and other physicians in your specialty. So unlike some of these centralized spaces where we talk, whether they be having to fly to a national or regional medical association meeting, or whether it's a Facebook group or a Twitter chat, we have a private, secure space that's physician only in the app that allows us to communicate and collaborate towards better patient care.
Very neat. So we have a question. What would incentivize physicians to do this digitally instead of the old way in order to scale it for big adoption?
So from the day you're hired until the day you're able to work is 4 to 6 months on average. During that time, you could be working at your old job, but sometimes people have gaps. On average, People can lose the minimum of like $25,000 up to over $100,000 in potential income that they could have been making during that time that they're twiddling their thumbs waiting for credentialing. Also, how many hours do we spend in credentialing? I know mine was like 10 to 15 hours, thousands of dollars, misses, redundancies, errors, clerical errors, having to overnight it, having to go get fingerprinted. So if we can create an automated digital verification service, this can be moments. So not only are we now able to make money the day after we are hired or the day that we're hired, if we want to do it that way, but we also are preventing all of the headache and all of the wasted time and effort of the manual process. So yeah, so it's really about reducing administrative burden and also giving us freedom of mobility. I've been working in jobs in the past where I felt I was being treated disrespectfully, and I felt that I wasn't able to provide proper care, and I felt like I was actually in dangerous situations in the past as a doctor. But the fact that it would take 4 to 6 months to credential for another job, I stayed and I dealt with it. And we're trapped. We as physicians are trapped in these really nefarious employment situations at times. And part of what's keeping us trapped is our inability to quickly move somewhere else. And so that's really the power that our solutions bringing to doctors.
Yeah, I really love that. I think there's so many things that need to be done to try to help us get away from being trapped and from feeling like we don't have options. And I'm so grateful for you and, all the people who are doing things that really are actually changing medicine. I think that, we should all be doing something. It doesn't need to be as extreme as start a business or start a whole, I mean, your thing is not even just a business. It's using blockchain. I mean, it's like gigantic. It can even just be negotiating your contract. It can be, taking the leap of faith and leaving a terrible work situation. And, that's so huge. And I hope that every doctor who feels trapped can get out. Like, let's do it. Don't forget, like, the world doesn't end if you leave a terrible situation. In fact, a whole new world can open up for you.
For sure. And that's the thing, we no longer have community. We as physicians used to be in charge. We had our private practices, we had our referral networks, we had M&M where we would learn from each other, and now it's like they've purposely isolated us. They want us to feel alone. They want us to feel like there's no choice and there's no way out, because if we feel like there's a way out, then we have leverage to negotiate fair contracts and to, find systems and processes that serve us. So, the community component of this is very important, in my opinion, because, what if you do want to start a private practice, but you're scared? How do you find other internists in your area? Well, through the HPEC app, you can do that. There's a piece of legislation that's going to decimate your practice if it's passed. You don't know where to go to find other doctors to find out if they even know about it, let alone want to make sure to let the legislators know. HPEC is a place that you can do that. So it's not only about credentialing and identity management. It's about, our sovereign ability to practice freely and to communicate and collaborate with our colleagues. And, I call it a digital physicians guild, because a lot of people are like, oh, we should unionize. The problem with unionizing is you have to be employed. So if you want to be an independent doctor and own your own practice, you can't join a union. And then if you do join a union, half of you have to agree to join, and then you have to agree to have a certain percentage of your income taken. And so there's a lot of rules around unions that don't apply to decentralized autonomous organizations or digital guilds like HPEC.
Wow, that's so huge. It's like a little village where the doctors can go and have their protected space. Like I imagine it in my head, like, in that movie, there's that Marvel movie with that city, Wakanda, I think it's called, with the dome around it. That's what I imagine HPEC when you just described that.
I love it.
Very, very cool. So it sounds like, not just for credentialing, but also just a place where we can go and have a safe space to talk and to share our wins and share our struggles and really just kind of problem solve together.
Correct.
Yeah, that's great. How can we join HPEC? How can we help? Where can we find you?
So The website is hpec.io. And you can download the app and join today. Now, it is early. It's in its earliest form. We raised a small amount of capital from practicing doctors like you and me who want to fix this together. And we want to keep this physician controlled and physician owned. So there's going to be opportunities for investment in the future. So if you want to become an owner of this with us, this is an opportunity for us to own our future. The credentialing industry is a $5 billion industry. Our data as doctors is constantly being sold without our knowledge or consent. Our patients' data is constantly being sold without their knowledge or consent. This is a real opportunity for us to do something different and to reclaim not only our own right to work and our identity, but to regain, control over the practice of medicine and to find a way to protect our patients. And really, patients don't trust us anymore. I've been out in the world and, the things I hear, it makes me really sad to know, because I know that we as doctors dedicated our lives to learning, how to prevent death and permanent disability. And, people don't trust us, and they don't trust us because of the systematic problems. So this is a chance to push up against those systematic problems collectively as a physician community, to own something that actually serves a purpose, that actually helps us, and that actually has a way to generate revenue for us, so that we can use that revenue towards lobbying efforts or, improving our practice and things of that nature. It's a very, very unique opportunity. So I hope everybody decides to join. It's free to join today. And, we look forward to communicating with everybody who decides to come on board.
Yeah, who better to own the data than the people that actually care about our patients?
Bingo.
Great.
Bingo.
Well, I'm so glad you came. Thank you for coming. That was Dr. Houston, everyone. If you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat, live or, whether this is live or a replay. And as a reminder, I'm the medical matchmaker. I help doctors find practices where you can enjoy practicing medicine. That's how I do my part to help us take back medicine. So if you're looking for a job or you're just curious what's out there, let me know. Or if you're a practice who's trying to hire, I'd be happy to help you there too. And thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, bye.